So my name is Stephen Clark. I'm a game designer based in New York City. I teach at a university, NYU there, and I run a video games gallery called Baby Castles in the city also.
So what was your inspiration when it comes to Witchball?
I mean, the idea kind of just like came to me while I was going for a walk one day, but I was asked to make a game for this public event called No Quarter, and so a very early version of Witchball was made for that. And I knew that people were only going to be able to play it for like maybe a minute. They'd play it like once, so they have a couple minutes because it's like a pretty crowded event. So I wanted something that was quicker, and I normally make sort of slower, like vignette games. They're kind of heavy in themes, and so I wanted to try to make a two-player competitive game so that more people could play and it was faster. And I always liked old racing games, like the very flat-feeling racing games with Mode 7 graphics and stuff like that. So I wanted to try and do that, and that's why I used Game Maker. It's a 2D engine. But the thing about those games is that they're oftentimes split screen, and they still treat it as though you were looking at two different screens. Like most multiplayer games now, people play on different computers or different places. It makes sense that you have two separate screens, but if you're on the same screen, why not treat it as one screen? It's sort of silly not to use that space. So in order to like not overcomplicate it too much, it's just a sort of a volleyball pong sort of games, like two fairly simple games to grasp on their own, like win the race or knock the ball onto the wall repeatedly. But overlaid, it's sort of like it gets like the texting while driving feeling, which is not safe. But where you sort of have to manage. It feels like you're managing two things, and eventually they sort of start to merge, where like you realize you don't really even have to look at your little rectangle anymore. You can just sort of follow the ball or look at the larger picture, and you sort of feel yourself in both spaces. So I guess that was the.
There's a lot of complexity to the game though as you play, because the tracks can get a lot more difficult, and then there's a lot of stuff going on. Like even the size of the ball gets larger the more times you hit it.
Right. Yeah. The interesting thing about the ball getting larger is more a feeling. It's more a feel, like a graphical thing, because your grab radius actually gets smaller as the ball gets larger. So it's the same radius. It just looks like the ball is like huge and wobbly and stuff. And it has something to do with I was reading up on like the way that your eye tracks objects on a screen, and like the reason that professional FPS players use a dot crosshair is because your eye checks for an overlap with the edge of a shape, not the center of a shape. Oops. So I had to add that like sort of circle around you because people were having trouble like grabbing the ball when it was like getting to a certain point. But as soon as they added that circle, they were able to like make that overlap, which is kind of interesting. Yeah. So it's. I tried to think about the amount of space you could move in, which you can move like left or right, you can move forward or back, and so I'm thinking, okay, well, left and right is the ball game, and forward and back is mostly the race, but there's a little bit of that in the ball game because if you're on one side of the screen and you're further up, the ball, because of its like sine curve arc, it'll actually get to you first. So it's more. I was just thinking about why would I travel in any direction, and how can I make all those directions interesting to go in.
At the same time, this game has a very much a retro feel in a time when retro is really, really in.
That could be. I mean, I don't have like an art background or anything, so it's like, and I was using Game Maker and it's sprite-based, so I just, like, the pixels made sense. It used to have like more of a, like sort of a screen overlay thing I didn't like, and I took it away and I use, it's sort of like a film grain effect now. It makes it feel a little bit warmer. And I mean, I really like animated films from like the 70s and stuff, so it kind of it was my sort of, palette, I guess, my textural palette, anyway.
And we're here at Ludicious Games Festival. What's it like checking out Switzerland?
It's really cute, actually. I wasn't totally sure what to expect. I mean, I've only ever been to like Prague, which is sort of a darker version of this, maybe. But yeah, it's been really nice. The people at the first thing that happened was, I mean, I got here and I like drove from the airport to the hotel, and they're like super nice at the hotel. They were very proud of their little key system that they made, where you put one key in and then you can take the one key out and take it with you. And then I met the guy who like made that like 26 years ago. He said he was just there. He was like the night door guy, and I was like, I like your key system, and he's like, yes, that was me 26 years ago. So I was like, okay, wow. I don't know. It's just like very I don't know. It feels very like homey, I guess.